Good morning, everyone. I'm going to talk about a slightly different subject. So many of the topics covered today are about very cool implementations, technologies, modeling, AI. But the topic that I'm going to cover, how do we make sure that these models, these technologies are actually used within the corporate environment? Because building a very interesting solution is one thing, but making sure that it's actually used and it's benefiting the company is a whole different matter. And it's not always guaranteed that it will happen. Okay, this looks better. So I'll start with talking about data science teams. So many companies in the financial services industry have centralized data science teams where they have a fairly large team, and that team helps multiple business areas. So I know other companies may have smaller teams within each business units, and many of the learnings are applicable, but my experience is centralized team, many areas, who may have different degrees of understanding what data science is about and how that can benefit them. So it has its unique challenges and opportunities, and that's what I'm going to focus most of the discussion. And in our case, the data science team is called Center for Data Science and Artificial Intelligence. And we have been in New York Live for about 7 years. And it's been a success by and large so far, but it has its own challenges. And I'll talk about that. So we are under Chief Data and Analytics Officer. And it's our data science group is generally part of the AI and data organization. So what is a data science team? So when we say data science, we typically understand the core functions, which is the core data scientists who directly work with data. They build models, they tune models, they deploy models. So we essentially understand as the model builders and model implementation people, which, yeah, something happened to the slide, but you get the idea. The core teams, these two, MLOps, data engineers, but generally it takes a lot more to make this an effective function within a corporation. So you need other skill sets like program managers who will manage the projects, align with stakeholders, do budget planning, etc. You need model governance who will do some monitoring and regulatory compliance work. You also need product management who will, along with data scientists, develop use cases. When you first approach the business, you talk in a different language. You don't start talking about Gen AI or any other technologies without grounding it in business and making use cases. So you need all of these as part of the team to make it a successful practice. So outside of the skill set, what are things that you need to do, and what is the right philosophy to make your practice successful? So first and foremost, you need to collaborate. So collaborate within the data science team, because all the skill sets that I showed, they need to have a common language and they need to have a common understanding. So collaboration is very important. The next one is collaborating with your business partners. In particular, in the financial services industry, New York Life Insurance is probably more on the conservative side, just the industry. Life insurance is old. I mean, we as a company are like 178-year-old company, and data science has not traditionally been part of the business. So when we were first formed, we were viewed as these new, strange people. I mean, it's interesting when you interact with, for example, the salespeople who are at the front line. They don't know what data science is. They heard it's cool, it's interesting, but they don't see it as part of their as part of their business. It has nothing to do with their decades of practice. So it's very important to find a common ground and sort of sell yourself to them, because they can say, no, I don't want your services. What are you going to do? So building trust and building a relationship is very important. Then next, you have to build innovative solutions, obviously, and data science itself is innovative, but it's not guaranteed that that you are up to date unless you make that effort. So at the end of the day, after you establish the trust, you have to make the specific cases of whatever you are proposing. How does it really benefit? So you have to walk them through, keeping in mind that they are not technical. Your business partners are never technical. Generally, they don't want to learn a lot of technicalities. So how do you convince them and show them that whatever you are proposing is beneficial to them? So all of these are part of the data science team. So it's to have this philosophy is very important. So then let's talk about the internal part. Well, for some reason you can't see the title, but it's meant to be a balancing between the R&D and the project timelines, project goals. So data scientists look to learn new things, new techniques, new libraries, new technologies. So they are always naturally inclined to get into interesting new things. But how do you make it practical? So we do want to learn constantly. So learning, trying it out, iterating. So this process is very interesting, but when do you stop? So that's where our program managers are helpful to make sure that data scientists are on track and they are on plan. But this mindset has to be in data scientists themselves to see where they can no longer see benefits from further iterations, and that's when they need to stop. So that's one element in the data scientist mindset that can be helpful. So now let's talk about collaboration with external partners. So in a centralized data science team, you are going to deal with multiple external partners. Those could be business areas. So in our case, all the core business areas that a life insurance company can have: underwriting, the agency organization, which is the name for our sales organization, because the way we sell our products is through agents. Unfortunately or fortunately, life insurance is not easy to sell because it's not an easy product to understand. So there are very few cases where you can go online and shop for the product that you need and then buy. So that doesn't typically happen. So the sales organization is very important. So marketing, like any company, you need marketing, finance, customer service or service for the agents, compliance, etc. So there are many business areas that we typically need to work, and of course, technology. So anything that we need to implement, we need technology's help. So it's very key that we have a good working relationship with all these external partners so that we can apply our expertise in the right way and actually make data science beneficial for them. So at the start of any initiative, it's important to identify who your key stakeholders are. It's not always obvious that if you are working for, if you are doing a project, an initiative for a certain business area, it's not always obvious who your stakeholders are. So you need to do some work to identify, and it's very common that you are going to meet with new people you have never worked with before, and they don't know who you are as a person and who you are as a group and what do you do actually. So that stakeholder identification and alignment is a very important initial step. Then understand your stakeholders. How does your solution actually benefit them? So you have to first understand yourself and then walk them through that process. How does it start? What is a data science project? They have no idea. They have their own projects, and their projects run in a different way. So you have to explain what it takes. And usually what it takes is not you take their data, you go out and work for a duration and come back with a solution. So that almost never works. So you have to constantly talk to them, explain to them, and understand them. And probably understanding is more important than explaining. So that groundwork has to be done in the beginning and throughout the project. You need to talk to them. You need to meet with them constantly. So how often do you meet with them? It varies project by project, but there is that periodic communication that needs to happen. So those are some general principles. I'm going to talk about some use cases that would kind of reveal some of the challenges and opportunities more specifically. So we as a group, in the 7 years that have been in existence at New York Life, have deployed many solutions, and there were some learnings along the way. So we want ideally to implement all of our projects, because typically projects are not small projects. So even one miss is significant. So 3 people working, let's say, for 6 months or a year, building a great solution, but eventually that solution not being used, that's significant. So you don't want that to happen, and it's very easy for that to happen if you are not careful. So I'll start with talking about a use case that was a success. So this is my first case where everything went fine and the project was implemented and it's being used today. So how did we start it? So I was talking to a senior leader, and she mentioned about the problem that they were facing. So they had a fraud process, but it was reactive and it was rule-based. So knowing at a very high level what we do, she thought maybe we can talk about it. So we took some information and we spent some time understanding the problem, and we said, yeah, we can probably solve this problem. Then with some digging, we found that there was a lot of data groundwork that had to be done to make a lot better solution that they had. So we spent about 6 months to do that. And when everything was set, we were ready to build a data science solution, which was a machine learning model. So we kicked off the project, spent another 6 months, and then we built a predictive machine learning model that would automatically highlight highly suspicious fraudulent cases, which then humans, our business partners, their specific group that deals with this issue, they would have to review these cases and then determine if they were actually fraud or not. So, so this group never had models before, and while we did a very good job explaining to them how it would work, they were still not very sure that we could just deploy it and it would go smoothly. So we had to test it, and we identified a couple of hundred cases, and we worked with them closely to show them that it's actually working. So, and that paved the way for like a deployment, because we convinced them by actual use cases that, so here's a list of highly suspicious cases, look at them. They looked at them while having their old system and comparing the results with the new solution. So at the end of this testing, it was obvious that this is a much more accurate and preventive rather than reactive fraud detection system. So then it was easy to convince them that this is worthwhile. So we handed it to technology, they deployed it, and they have been using it. And now we have built the second version of the model, which is more sophisticated, more up-to-date, and uses more data sources. And now we are in the process of deploying the version 2 of the model. So all in all, successful implementation and successful continuation. So now I'll talk about my second use case, where, well, again, you don't see anything in the title, or maybe very lightly. So it's a model that we deployed, but it's not being used. So how did it start? So a senior business leader approached us with a problem. So we discussed, it was not a very obvious problem and not a familiar problem for us. So we spent some time talking to them, understanding the data. Do they actually have the data? Are they automated? So all that discussion was helpful, and we eventually saw that it can be solved. So this leader was very happy. Along the way, another leader joined. So now we had two leaders who were very interested in a solution that we were proposing. So it's a great start, a strong backing. So we chartered the project, who from our side was going to work, who from their side was going to work, and then we started working. So a year went by. We built the solution, the model, and during this time, one of the initial leader was promoted. Now she had more responsibilities, so her attention was on broader things, broader priorities. So she had less focus on this project, but it was still an active project. We showed that the model is actually working, so it went to IT to deploy. So the IT deployed the model, but while we were doing this, the first leader left the company and the second leader retired. So now we had new leadership in both of these positions, and they were not interested in the solution. They just couldn't see it, that it's helpful. So we tried to rekindle their interest and revive this model, but that was of no use. So after some time, when we saw that every month we updated the model and they just didn't use it, so we decided we are going to decommission. Maybe in the future they will see that it's useful and they'll use it. So all this time and resources are wasted, including their time, because during this process they were engaged, their teams were engaged. So an unfortunate case. But how could we prevent it? Obviously, we couldn't see in the beginning that these leaders would eventually leave. So that there's no way to predict that, even though we are in the predictive business. But these kind of things are hard to know. So what should we have done? It usually starts from leaders backing, but we work for the company, not for individuals, not for leaders. So the right way to do it, or a better way to do it, would be to get institutional backing from the organization, not just leaders saying, yeah, this is great, go ahead and start, we will deploy it, we will use it. So all that is good, but you need skin in the game from the organization, not just the leader's commitment. So, and that usually means budgetary commitment from the organization, the business area that you are working with. So this was a good lesson to learn, and we were more careful in our projects that came after this. And I'll talk about another use case where we developed a model, but we didn't deploy, so we wanted to test. So this was a little bit different. So again, leaders from the sales organization approached us. So I worked with one of them before, so we knew each other, so there was that trust. And then he brought others into the mix. So this was a really good start. They asked us to see if they can prioritize sales leads, high-value sales leads, so that they can identify and target high-net-worth clients, existing clients selling new products that had a high value. So we analyzed the data, and we thought that we could do this. So again, we charted the project, we worked with their teams, and we built a machine learning model that would identify individuals on agents' book of business who could buy another high-value policy. So we showed the model is predictive. It's actually quite effective if used. But before we would deploy it, we decided to test it. So we gave the list to our business partners, and they distributed to a group of agents. And to their big surprise, and to our surprise too, the agent said, no, we don't want to do this. We don't care about your model. We know who to talk to, when to talk to, so we don't want this. And agents are not employees, so you don't have as much leverage. So they have a lot of power, and they can decide whatever they want, because at the end of the day, If they sell, they make money. If they don't sell, they don't make money. So they make their own decisions. And unfortunately, some of those decisions aren't right for them, aren't right for us. But that's the reality on the ground, that we can't pressure them to do anything. So seeing this, we decided that it's not going anywhere, and we cannot deploy this model. So another case of wasted resources, but at least we didn't waste more resources in deploying. So we stopped midway in the project. So what could we have done differently? The learning from this is that our business partners are very knowledgeable, and we trust their guts, we trust their experience, but they are not the end users. So you need to talk to the end users in some fashion, and talking to them. We have 12,000 agents, so obviously we can't talk to all of them, but what we could do is fail fast. So build a minimal solution, which may not be great, may not be as predictive as a full-blown model, but go with this and show it to the agents. So if we did this, they would still say no, but we would learn much earlier in the process, and we would stop. We would stop much earlier, and we would waste all those resources. So that was the learning from this. And generally, what's the best path forward with these projects? Because we data scientists typically like to focus on the interesting aspects and ignore the fact that your users, your partners don't see it that way. Their priorities are very different. It could be interesting internally, using new techniques, new technologies, but if it's not used, then it's of no use. So after all of these learnings, the best path forward, we think, is that any projects, any initiatives, they don't need to be sold as such. You need to have joint initiatives where your business partners are involved from the beginning, and they need to have a skin in the game. They need to be part of overall initiatives. It shouldn't be a data science initiative that they may or may not like. It should be a business initiative where data science is just a component in it. It's a major component, but you are part of an initiative that's driven by everyone involved. That's your business partners, it's your enablers like IT, data management. They need to be on board. And that way you have, from the beginning, all the budgets are set, it's clear, the path is clear, the timeline is clear, and there are no surprises along the way. So it may be a more difficult process, but once it's in place, then you are confident that this project will go through the end and it will not stop. They will use it because they are paying for it. And obviously, to get them convinced from the beginning, you need to do some cost-benefit analysis and show them that there is a clear path to a net benefit at the end. And usually, net benefit should be very significant. You can't say, let's build you this solution, you'll spend a couple of $1 million, but in 5 years, you'll recoup. That's not a good deal for them. So usually you need to have like multiples of returns to their investment for them to be very excited and to go through all this exercise. That's all I had. Happy to answer any questions.